Look at that. My stream deck is working. Yes. Okay, good. All right, party people. Hello, party people. And welcome to an afternoon version of Office Hours. This absolutely never happens. Normally, I stream during the mornings when Europeans are still up, when I'm bright and around. But today we had something kind of goofy happen. I went and took a nap. That's not what's goofy. I nap every single day, weekday or weekend. I always nap every single day. Because those of you who followed the stream for a while know about my wacko sleep schedule. And I woke up from the nap with you know how you woke up on the wrong side of the bed sometimes, and you're like all grumpy and everything annoys you. Merry Christmas, CTI geek. Everything. See, that didn't annoy me. Like I'm happy when I see stuff like this. I woke up from the nap and I'm like, I am a grown adult who gets to take naps. I work for myself. I'm walking around I get to go take the dog for a walk on a nice sunny afternoon in Las Vegas. It's bright out. It's comfortable. I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I probably shouldn't even be inside. It's warm inside. It was just a little chilly on the outside there. I say a little chilly. It's 60. So I have like nothing to complain about, and yet I woke up from the nap on the wrong side of the bed. So I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I am going to pour myself a drink. In this case, it's a gin and tonic. And I am going to go office hours and go down in flames if there are any bad questions. And there were some bad questions. Kinda says, I caught one live, so happy. Kinda, where do you live that you're only now catching it after hours? I don't know if that's because of where you live or where your work schedule is, because sometimes people can't catch them during work hours. Me too, I should say. When I watch streams, I only watch them in the afternoons. One of my favorite streamers who does Dead by Daylight goes live, usually around like 4 p.m. Pacific, which is just perfect for me because at that point in the afternoon, I'm completely done. I'm not doing any more work stuff at that time. Then I can just go plop down in the home theater and just watch, which I always find funny. Because if you'd have asked me growing up, Brent, do you like watching any sports? I'd be like, nah, not really. Other than car racing, there was some car racing stuff I liked. But now, as a grown adult, what do? I don't watch any sports at all, but I watch Dead by Daylight. Oh, CTI says, or CTI Geek says, we're coming to Las Vegas soon. What Chinese restaurant, or Chinese or Asian restaurant should we go to, please? That's a great question. In Las Vegas, there's this Chinatown part of town on Spring Mountain Road. Spring Mountain Road. There are so many good Chinese and Asian places out there. It's bananas. But I'm going to tell you, my all-time favorite one is Xiao Long Soup Dumplings. It's like Xiao Long Soup Dumplings. Unbelievable. It's an easy cab ride from the strip. I'm going to say maybe a 10-minute cab ride tops from the strip. You probably don't want to walk it, although you could in this time of year. It's just not a pretty walk. That is my absolute all-time favorite, but there are so many good things on Spring Mountain Road. If you Google for like a tourist guide to Spring Mountain Road, or eater.com has a special on Spring Mountain Road that lists their favorite restaurants. And if I remember right, Xiaolong Soup Dumplings is in there. That one's my number one favorite. There are several others, but I don't know their names because Shanghai Plaza is one of the plazas that has a bunch of good restaurants in it. But there are just so many. Oh, God, there's several. Raku is another one. And then, so that would be my number one by far, is everything on Spring Mountain Road. There's so many spectacular ones. The second thing I would say is if you're in the casinos, check out Mott 32. MOTT 32, if you want to stay on the strip. I want to say it's in the Venetian. I might be wrong. It might be in the Wynn, but Mott 32 is probably like extremely good. If you're at Hakkasan and you want to stay in Hakkasan, I'm sorry, if you were in MGM and you want to stay in MGM, Hakkasan is also really good. It's kind of expensive. I think it's kind of overpriced for what it is, but it's full of drama. It's a restaurant during the day, and then it switches to a nightclub at night, or the focus really turns to the nightclub at night. So it's got a real nightclub kind of atmosphere to it. Very hip, gorgeous, but I think it's kind of overpriced. Kinda Shandy Ray says, I work during the day. Okay, good. That's a lot of us. On vacation this week, so I could catch you. Oh, that's funny. So you don't watch, you're one of the good people who doesn't watch the stream while you're at work. I'll tell you a secret. Most of the people who watch the live stream, they even watch while they're working. They watch Twitch while they're working. The joys of working from home. So good. All right, let's get to the first question here. The first question, and the reason why, honest to goodness, I made myself a drink when I looked at this question. Long Running Backup says, you say to use SAN Snapshot backups. I've searched for Ozar SAN Snapshot, but your article has a broken link. Other searches don't provide relevant results because snapshot is a common or overused term. So here's what you want to do. Put the Googles down for a minute and go talk to your storage administrator. Talk to whoever manages your storage and say, do we have the capability to do snapshot backups? Is it an extra price thing? Is it something that's built into our storage? Have you ever done it before? Now, if you've never heard of it and your storage administrator has never heard of it, then you're probably going to have to contact someone for consulting. Whether it's me or whether it's someone who works with your storage, that's cool. But it's so complicated that it's going to be one of those things that you just don't find at step 1, step 2, step 3 type thing. It's different from every make and model of storage. It's different for cloud vendors across the board. But start by talking to your storage administrator. Second up, we have asking for a friend says, follow up on the cloud databases are overrated question. No, I understand that on-premises VMs are not free, but they have a sunk cost since it already exists. You're missing software assurance. You're missing the ongoing cost of SQL Server that hits every year. Nobody buys SQL Server just once and then puts it in and then walks away. You pay software assurance every year. And if you're not aware of that, go to your accounting team and ask, where do we get our software licenses from? Is there an ongoing cost that we pay to Microsoft every year? If that answer is no, if you didn't buy software assurance, then I've got bad news. Pretty much everything out there is unsupported. I'd have to go back and Google for the most, or for the only SQL Server versions that are under mainstream support right now. Mainstream support is the only free support that you get with SQL Server. But if it's under extended support, it is not supported for you. Try going and opening a Microsoft support ticket. And the reason that you care is that most companies have some kind of obligation with their shareholders or their security departments or with their auditors or whatever, that they're only going to run software that's supported by its vendor. So it'll be an interesting discussion that you have with your security teams, with your auditors, and so forth. I've had clients who were running very old versions of SQL Server, like say 2008 or 2012. And when I talked to them about, hey, do you understand that that means you're out of support? And what does your security team say about that? They're like, shh, don't tell. And I'm like, well, here's the deal. According to the NDA that you made me sign, if I see any security problems, then I have to go through and report those to your security team. So if you'll give me a moment, I'm going to go compose an email to your security team because legally that's what I'm required to do. Oh, that gets really ugly. Next up, TheMooneyFlyer says, how often do you come across performance issues that can't be solved by indexes, queries, or server optimization, but require an application redesign? Oh, that's a great question. I kind of think of it as a failure as a consultant if I can't get someone across the finish line quickly. I will give them advice and I'll say, hey, look, really this, in this case, this application, this is a bad idea what you're trying to do, but I understand why you did it. You had to make some compromises to get across the finish line. Here's how we're going to duct tape this thing together and make it fly. I never want to point the blame at the developers and say you never should have written it this way. However, every now and then it does happen, because one of the things that you left off was hardware, throwing hardware at it, and sometimes that's the most effective way to do it. Every now and then it does happen, and I'm going to give you an example. I had a client who needed to load a billion row table, and the way that their developers had written it, they were inserting one row at a time. Their application would insert one row, wait for the ACK to come back from SQL Server, insert the next row, wait for the ACK to come back from SQL Server. And of course, they were waiting on writing to the transaction log and waiting for stuff to go across the network. And I said, here's the deal. You can't just load one row at a time. You need to load 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000. I need you to shove as much data as you possibly can in per each row. And to explain to them why, I said, watch this. I'm going to go hook up SSIS over to the SQL Server. We're going to take your same source file and we're going to go load it into the destination location, and I want you to watch how fast it goes. And I said, now, listen, obviously just this SSIS package, it's probably not what you want to use for production, especially since you're trying to sell this application. But clearly, you can't do one at a time. And also, I took SSIS, and I only loaded one row at a time. I loaded just one row at a time and said, now watch how much slower it is. I said, so unfortunately, here's just the deal, is you got to think in batches. This is a common concept in databases, set-based thinking. That's one of the reasons they call it that. So when you say, how do you manage, your question was, how do you manage this so that your client is happy with the report? I have to show them, here's the way to the promised land and how you're going to need to do it. I'll say that if I could do anything to make that one row at a time process faster, I would. In the case of that one row, I'm going to do something that's going to, or I'm going to tell you something that I did that's going to make you a little sick to your stomach. I put the database's transaction log on a RAM drive. Yep. This was a while ago, and I'm not necessarily proud of it. Put the database's transaction log on a RAM drive, and I turned on delayed durability, which is the feature in SQL Server that immediately accepts transactions as soon as they come in without even waiting for them to hit the transaction log file. With those two changes, we were able to get like 100x performance improvement. And the client was actually happy, even though it was nowhere near the throughput that SSIS could do. And I said, I understand that you need to demo this to clients. So if you need to demo it, this is the way that I would do it temporarily, is I would load the data into a staging database whose transaction log was on a RAM drive and with delayed durability turned on. And as soon as the load finishes, go move that data over into a real database so that it's safe and persistent. There you go. Great moments and things that make me drink. Refreshing. Next up, Xavier says, if a software vendor is using inefficient coding techniques that impact application performance, where would you draw the line in helping them? I went as far as giving them a query which solved a timeout to replace their nested stored procedures. That's cool. What I would do is, the same thing I do throughout all my career, is I give my manager my list of tasks. Here's everything that I'm doing. And I'll tell my manager, here's how I arranged them in priority order. You tell me what needs to move. Because I don't care how many tasks or which order the tasks go in. I'm going to come to work at 9 o'clock and I'm going to leave at 5 or whatever those hours are that you agree on. And I'm going to do as much as I can inside those hours. But at the end of that time, I'm going to go home. Because I have family commitments, I have loved ones that I need to go see. So it's up to you, whatever you want me to do first. If my boss says the number one thing on that list is assisting that software vendor by rewriting those queries, I will happily rewrite them all day long. And to give you an example of that, I worked for a hotel company. Long ago, I worked for a hotel company, and we used a set of software that was designed by another company, that was sold to us from another company. And I ended up building all kinds of things to make their software go faster. I built the first FTP communication system for them to route data from properties to home offices. CTI Geek says in my scheduling, I also have to take a nap at 1 p.m. So I wrote all kinds of things for them, and I just gave them to them. I said, here you go. We're using this at our company. Here you go. You can use this with your other clients if you like. And my bosses loved me because I made their investment in the software pay off so much. And you know where my next job was? I bet you can guess. Surly Dev. Good to see you in the chat there. Next up, Mantra says, do you listen to music while working? And what is your favorite type of music to listen to? When I need to zone out, it's always electronic dance music. And so it tends to be, these days, it's a production company called Circle, C-E-R-C-L-E. Circle is C-E-R-C-L-E. And what they do is they put on dance music concerts all over the world in visually beautiful locations, and they record them with drones and all kinds of expensive cameras, like on a volcano in Iceland, on a cruise ship going through the Antarctic, in the middle of a desert, just crazy places that you would never think a trance music or dance music concert would be in. And then they put them up on YouTube totally for free. So if you search on youtube.com for Circle, C-E-R-C-L-E, my favorite concerts out of there are groups called Above and Beyond, Blondish, and Gioli and Asia. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing their names. They're probably my favorite ones. Next up, Renzi says, do you see any specific AI skill sets complementing SQL DBAs? Oh, this is so good. You know what, by far and away, the biggest problem is in tech? People don't know how to Google. I'm being completely serious. People don't have a good bullshit detector. So number one, they don't know how to phrase their question to Google so that they find good results. Number two, when they get results, they don't have a good filter to tell whether the answers are right or not. That's one of the reasons that things like office hours are so popular on YouTube. I don't get as much live following because people don't always have the time to drop and tune in. But, we get tons of hits on the YouTube videos and people just keep answering questions because once they know someone who's trusted, they want to ask them all kinds of questions. Guess what problems people are going to have with AI? They don't know how to ask the right question. And they just take the answers as coming straight from the mouth of Jesus. So, of course, AI isn't going to solve anyone's problems when it comes time to asking questions for tech. In fact, it's only going to make it worse because it presents the answers as if it's the God's honest truth, even giving you source code that won't even compile. Now, like Google, if you suck at Google, you can still do decently well most of the time. And then you're going to go down in flames, say maybe 1 time in 10. Things like ChatGPT are only going to accelerate that. As people start to integrate that directly into their routines and coding processes, they're going to take things from ChatGPT as if it's the word of God and put it into their code. So by far and away, the best skill set you can have is learn how to Google. And the work that you get from being a good Googler will also make you great at using AI, which is just kind of goofy. Next up, Ömer says, what are the top performance-related features that you get in Box SQL Server Enterprise that you don't get in Standard? Number one, for sure, is more hardware. You can use more than 24 CPU cores, and you can use more than 128 gigs of RAM. Other types of things include the ability to automatically use indexed views where they're available, all the intelligent query processing stuff, merry-go-round scans, For me, those are less important. The number one being you can use more hardware. So often when clients come to me and they say, hey, listen, we need to move to Enterprise Edition, I'll be, hold up. Why don't you go to Standard Edition's maxes first? Why don't you go to, say, 24 CPU cores and 192 gigs of RAM, because the engine can actually use more than 128. Go to 192 gigs of RAM, and then let's see whether or not you use Enterprise, because often going to those hardware levels is much cheaper than going to Enterprise Edition on, say, an 8-core box with 32 gigs of RAM. Kinda says, kinda handy Ray. Oh, I finally put it together. Kinda handy Ray. Says, perhaps the biggest problem with asking a question is being able to filter your own logical fallacies from the question. Yeah, people will ask questions with misleading things, incorrect assumptions. They'll say, well, of course that, and then they start with something that completely isn't true. All right, we'll do one more. Let's see here. Oh, Kemal says, or Kemal says, do you have any suggestions for how to load test TempDB on a prospective new cloud VM? When you say load test VM, that's just storage, right? So you would load test it the same way you would load test any other kind of storage. What's that you say? You don't know how to load test SQL Server? So search for Brent Ozar, how to load test a new SQL server, and I've got a blog post that explains exactly how to do it. The answer is usually to start by restoring your databases. All right, so that is a good start there. I didn't do too badly. I actually did okay with that. Despite waking up on the wrong side of the bed, I feel better already. I have a long piled up list of pull requests that I need to go get to in the first responder kit. So I'll be doing that probably as a live stream this week. Depends though, because I got a couple of consulting clients Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, I will see y'all on the next version of Office Hours. Adios.